stems, that sort of thing. And then we're going to strain it to absorb some of the water. There we go. I'm using tapioca starch, 14 tablespoons for 14 cups. So that was 2 3/4 cup. So I'll put in half of that, put the rest back in my box. And so I'm just putting just a hint of cinnamon in. 4 cupfuls of lemon juice. I use 1 full brick of all vegetable shortening for my vegan friends. I use 5 cups of cake and pastry flour from 1847.ca. And what I do I call it my secret ingredient, I use cider vinegar. So I use about 3 cupfuls. And I put water in it and I whisk that. I just stir it until it's kind of like a thicker paste. Almost like you're making glue. Key to pastry, it's the opposite of bread. The more you need bread, the better it is. Pastry, the less you handle it, the better it is. I do my pastries all by hand. I don't know why I never bought a processor, or I think because they always break down and then you're always buying another one. And I think it's a connection to your food. That's why I don't use food processors. It does give me a better connection to my food, and I wanted to understand, how to make bread without a bread machine first. I mean, suppose you can't plug into hydro someday. We gotta know how to make these things. What I'm doing is I'm using this tool. And I'm crumbling the veggie lard into the flour until it looks a little bit like coarse oatmeal. That's what I was always taught. The flour, cider vinegar, water mixture into a little bit of a paste. And I'm going to pour that over top. And I'm going to mix that in. There's quite a bit of flour there, so I'm just going to add a little bit more water. Mixture, a little bit at a time. There we go. We'll just kind of see how this looks. And feels, I suppose. So that's looking pretty good. And it's sticky. And it's picking up the flour on the bottom. So those are all good. Now to work on getting all this flour off my hands. My next step is flouring the surface of my pastry board. Getting myself a really good scraper knife. And flouring my pin. My rolling pin. So So we're making 8.5, 9-inch pie. So when I'm weighing this out, 206, 208 grams works out perfect for an 8.5, 9-inch pie. So you're flipping your pastry often and keeping your surface floured underneath so that, and your rolling pin as well, so that your pastry doesn't stick. Because if it sticks, it's just a difficult mess to try to get off. And you're using your scraper to flip it over, turn it on the other side, adding a little bit more flour to your rolling pin, and away you go on the other side. So you roll it out, kind of approximate. You think it's going to go beyond your pie plate a little bit, so you're going to make your edging. And use your scraper to pick it up, because it is going to stick. You want it a little bit sticky, your pastry, because I find it's flakier that way. If you've got a pastry that's really dry and doesn't stick, it's going to be hard to cut, I find. And you don't want that. You want a nice, light, flaky pastry. And I find that's what happens as well when you play with the dough too much. It gets too stiff. And that takes away from your nice, flaky pie pastry. So yeah, there's a couple tricks. Cider vinegar in your pastry. Don't play with it when you're mixing it. Make sure it's a little on the moist side, and you should have a nice flaky pastry. Flour on your surface, flour on your rolling pin. (206 to 208 grams of pastry. I'm eyeballing it. So weighing out the ingredients, I've got about 440 grams, approximately 2.5, maybe 3 cups of blueberries. Whatever size pan you're using, you just want it to be relatively even with your pan. I mean, they're going to cook down a little bit, but you don't want them. You don't want the sugar juice pouring out into your oven. So you want it fairly level with your sides of your pan. So 14 cups of blueberries made 6 pies. So we're going to do the same for the top. Try to make my edges nice and round. Keeping lots of flour under there. And to make a little smiley face on top for my top one. Just roll it onto my pin. Slide the pie underneath and roll it back out. And then you're cutting off the edges. And we got to get these pies in the oven, because the oven is beeping saying it's ready. So I keep flour on my fingers and on my hands. And at the same time that I'm pushing with my little finger, I am pushing against that with my thumb and finger. Keeping flour on my hands that gives it kind of a nice scalloped looking edge. Like it's a professional pie. Professionally made. I don't know, how much are blueberry pies in the store? Well, it looks lovely. We're gonna pop that in the oven. Gonna do the same for the rest of the pies. Really always on a timeline. So I'm trying to get these pies all done. And I've got 6 pies to go in the oven. So we'll see. There you go, nice little pointy triangle on there. Now it's time for cleanup. They look so happy. So I've got someone waiting for a pie. Wrap this one up and take it out to the hut. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. Happy pies.